Good morning, friends. Good morning. I know it's a few seconds early, but I figured that would give us the chance here because I know Facebook has been not giving notifications or giving them kind of late. So I thought I would just go on a little bit early and see. Maybe I should have gone on a full minute early, just to make sure, just to give time. But hey, there we are. It actually did register, not too bad, only a little while after I started. So that's good. So hopefully you're getting your notifications now. But what is this? Notifications for what? Well, this is PB Reads the Bible. There's another episode of PB Reads the Bible. I'm PB. I'm pastor here at Christ UMC. And we get together and we read from the Bible and then chat about it. And I try to open up some thoughts and things that you might not have thought about before, and especially with regarding context, so we have a better understanding of what's actually taking place in the passages. So this is episode 10 on our journey through the book of 2 Samuel, or the second half of Samuel, whichever way you want to call it. And go ahead and check in. I see that a couple folks are already doing that. Let me know that you're watching it. Let me know that you're part of our small group this morning or whenever it is you're watching. It is 9 o'clock on Monday, August 1st, when we are doing this live, but you might be watching it some other time. But go ahead and check in no matter what it is, and also put down any prayer requests or comments on our content in the comments section of the stream. And I do check them out, and I will get back to you with answers. I don't always see your stuff until after we get done, though, so just keep that in mind. If I don't answer you right away, that's why. Good morning, Cheryl. Good morning, Marcia. Good morning, Don. Oh, I have a good day. I hope you have a great day as well. I hope you have a great day as well. So it's another day, another week, Monday. We start our week, and it's another day, it's another week, it's another month, August 1st. Wow, ridiculousness how quickly the months and the year is flying by. So we're going to be looking at chapter 11. This is episode 10 on our journey through 2 Samuel. We're going to be looking at chapter 11. We did 2 chapters. We did 9 and 10 on Thursday last week. We saw a couple things. I think hopefully we saw some changes in David's character beginning to occur. We saw some things beginning to occur, and we saw that he didn't go out with his army, and then he did go out with his army, and that kind of thing. And there's some battles going on with the Ammonites, right? And the Arameans are done. They've given in, but the Ammonites are still there. Still there. Good morning, John and Cindy. Good to have you. Yes, Cheryl, we saw George Jetson was born yesterday. We saw that numerous times on Facebook. So where's our flying cars? Somebody said, oh, that's 20 years from now. Then we'll have the flying cars, because apparently, George wasn't until 2062. But that's funny stuff. Because he was about 40 years old in the cartoon. That's why I'm saying 40 years in 2062. Anyway, all right. So here's something I probably should have shown to you the other day or sometime last week, whenever David first conquered Jerusalem. I probably should have shown you this picture then. So I'm going to do it now. And we're going to make this bigger, though, so that you can actually see what it is I'm talking about. All right. This, like it says over here, this is David's Jerusalem. So this is a drawing, obviously not a photograph, and not even an official drawing from the time. They didn't go down to the courthouse or anything like that. This is an approximation of what it looked like, of what Jerusalem looked like at the time of David, and we can see a variety of different things in this map and in this location, and we have some numbers and some things. So Jerusalem is basically in a valley, but it's sort of on a hill at the same time. It's on a hill, and it's surrounded by valleys. It's got the Kidron Valley, which we hear of often, especially in the Gospels, and they walked through the Kidron Valley. And on this side, it's the Tyropoean Valley, the Transversal Valley. So it's all up here. This is on a mountain almost, but behind it is the bigger hill, and that's Mount Moriah. Up top here is where the tabernacle was, and that's the fire like constantly burning. This is Jerusalem itself. We've got a pool down here, which is the runoff from the Gahan Spring, which would have been up here somewhere. Okay, and we've got pool and pool towers in here. What's all this about? Well, here's the important thing right here. Number 4, which is almost smack dab in the middle of this drawing, of this picture. Number 4, that's this building here, with the beige colored roof and the lighter colored building. That is David's palace. Okay, this is David's palace. Notice like where it is. It is on the highest point of Jerusalem. I think that this is important. I think this is important. The palace is way up here on the uppermost, the topmost, the highest point of the city. And we can see here a stepped structure coming up to the side, and which looks like, I don't know this for a fact, I don't know this for certain, never been there, but it looks almost like this is how someone would have to go to get up to the palace to see the king. So they'd have to go up all these steps to get there. All right. So David's palace is on the highest point of Jerusalem. That's the point I wanted to make at this point. I think that tells us something. I think that tells us a little something about David's character and what seems to be happening with him. This is my interpretation. I would say that his ego is starting to get to him. He builds himself this grand palace and he puts it on the highest point of the city. So he can literally look out over his city. He can look out over everything. He could see everything in his city. And to get to him, the people have to journey, and they have to go up those steps and all that kind of stuff just to get to him. So I think it's starting to say some things about his personality, his character, and his ego. He's starting to think a lot of himself, maybe a lot more than he used to, right? Keep this in mind as we begin to read chapter 11. And I'm going to read the first verse, and then I'm going to pause, then we'll read a whole bunch more. That's just a warning. We're going to pause after only one verse. In the spring of the year, the time when kings go out to battle, David sent Joab with his officers and all Israel with him. They ravaged the Ammonites and besieged Rabbah, but David remained at Jerusalem. Pause. Now, we might think, if it weren't for a couple key words by the author, we might not think much at all of David not going out, right? We might not think much of it if without a couple words, without a couple statements by, almost like asides by the author. Without those words, the time when kings go out to war or to battle, and without those last few words, but David remained at Jerusalem, we wouldn't think much of it. He's the king. He sends his army off to war because that's how it's done today. The original hearers of this story would pick up on this. They would pick up on this very quickly, very quickly. The author is stating the fact that this is the time when kings go out to battle, when kings go out to war. And then says those final words in that last sentence, but David remained at Jerusalem. The original hearers, this would have perked up their ears. And it should perk up our ears as well. It's like the da 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 in Jaws. You know, every time you hear it, you know something's going to happen. Or you're watching, a horror movie or anything, any kind of a movie, and that tense music comes in. Something's going to happen. And anytime a character says something like, oh, everything's going to be all right, it's not going to be all right. That's what's taking place here. Those words should perk up our ears and make us think something's going to happen. And it does, because David stayed home from battle. Picking up. It happened late one afternoon when David rose from his couch and was walking about on the roof of the king's house that he saw from the roof a woman bathing. The woman was very beautiful. David sent someone to inquire about the woman. It was reported, "This is Bathsheba, daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite." So David sent messengers to get her, and she came to him, and he lay with her. Now she was purifying herself after her period. Then she returned to her house. The woman conceived, and she sent and told David, "I am pregnant." Pause. So we're going to pause there. This is why I think it's important to know where David's palace was. His palace is at the highest point of the city, and he goes up and walks around on the roof of his palace, of his porch, the porch roof, to look around, to pace. He's not doing what he's supposed to be doing. The author's already told us that. And kings are supposed to be off in war. We remember from way back when, like chapter 8 of 1 Samuel, if not before that, the people requested, we want a king who will go out to our battles for us. They wanted a king who was going to lead them in war. And we've been told numerous times how David did, and the people remembered that, right? They remembered, we remember how you led our soldiers in war, not King Saul. So we want you to be king. Well, now he's not doing the very things that made him shine in people's eyes. He's not doing that. He's not doing what a king is supposed to be doing, and he's bored. We get the sense of him being bored. He gets up off of his couch and he's pacing around on the roof, and he's looking, and he spies Bathsheba. He spies Bathsheba. Notice how notice how she is named. And the NRSV and the NIV have a difference of opinion on it. The NRSV, it's a statement. The NIV puts it in as a question, and it could be either. This is Bathsheba, daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite. So her name is given, but she's identified by her father and her husband, reminding us that she's like, I'm sorry to say it, but she's nothing. She's not even a secondary character, really. She is a tool. The author is even using her as a tool to state his point and to make this happen. She is a tool that David uses. Now, different people put different things in here, and some try to point to Bathsheba. Well, she was being a flirtatious woman, parading around naked on the roof of her house. No, that's not in the text at all. That's not what the author is saying. People bathed on the roof of their house. They did not have indoor plumbing. So they would have things to catch water on the roof of their house. That's where you bathed. Okay, and you're not supposed to be looking on other people's roofs. David should have averted his eyes as soon as he saw her. We're also told that she was purifying herself after her period. That's told for a couple different reasons. One, it's a particular type of bath, which David should have recognized that that's what was going on. It's also to establish the fact there's no way, yes, this is spoiler alert, she gets pregnant. There's no way it could have been Uriah's child because we know he's been off to war and he's not in town. So it has to be David's child that she's pregnant with. It's also told to let everybody know David should have recognized the bath and should have known the risky situation he was putting himself under by trying to have sex with this woman. All right. So she was not being flirtatious. She was basically doing what a woman was supposed to do in order to be clean and purified and safe to be about with other people. But it also tells us, it gives us some science. It tells us about where in her cycle she is, and it's kind of the risky time, right? Now, both the NIV and the NRSV soften the Hebrew a little bit here, and when we do that, we miss something, because it says David sent messengers to get her. It shouldn't be get. The Hebrew is actually take. He sent them to take her. It wasn't to go and ask her to please join us and to bring her to David. It was to go and take her and bring her to me. That's what the Hebrew is saying. You get the difference there, right? The difference between get and take. Get and take. And the verbs, so they're very strong verbs. He sent to take, and she came, and he lay with her. So she came not because like a willing party, but acquiesce in the face of violence. You can't say no to the king. And she probably didn't know what he wanted anyway. And he lay with her. So his verbs are very active and strong, and nasty. The woman conceived and sent and told David, "I am pregnant. I am pregnant." It can't possibly be Uriah's. It has to be David's. So far, we've been told David was doing what he wasn't supposed to be doing, or wasn't doing what he was supposed to be doing. Now we have the act itself, this wrongness, where he is violating numerous. He's violating a couple different commandments, right? He's violating commandments. He is greedy. He's coveting his neighbor's wife, and he's having adultery with his neighbor's wife. He's basically stealing also from his neighbor, because the woman would be property. So he's doing several different things that he shouldn't be doing. Major violations of God's law. Major violations of God's law. So we're going to pick up from there. Now we get to the cover-up. David tries to cover up. So David sent word to Joab. Notice how Joab always seems to be around when David needs something done, something less than nice. "Send me Uriah the Hittite." And Joab sent Uriah to David. And again, like the same words, the same in control words of David. David sent his messengers to take Bathsheba, and now he is sending a message to take Uriah from the front and bring him back. What David can't control so far, though, is Bathsheba's body, right? He can't. He thinks he's in control, but he can't control he can't control Bathsheba's body. That's the first thing he can't control. What else can't David control? All right, so Joab sent Uriah to David. When Uriah came to David, David asked Joab and asked how Joab and the people fared and how the war was going. Then David said to Uriah, "Go down to your house and wash your feet." Uriah went out of the king's house, and there followed him a present from the king. But Uriah slept at the entrance of the king's house with all the servants of his lord. and did not go down to his house. When they told David, Uriah did not go down to his house. David said to Uriah, you have just come from a journey. Why did you not go down to your house? Uriah said to David, the ark in Israel and Judah remain in booths, and my lord Joab and the servants of my lord are camping in the open field. Shall I then go to my house to eat and to drink and to lie with my wife? As you live and as your soul lives, I will not do such a thing. Then David said to Uriah, remain here today also, and tomorrow I will send you back. So Uriah remained in Jerusalem that day. On the next day, David invited him to eat and drink in the evening. He went out to lie on his couch with the servants of his Lord, but he did not go down to his house. Pause. So now we have the attempted cover-up. He sends for Uriah, for Bathsheba's husband, and he brings Uriah in and he asks him, how are things going? How are things going? So we can see this as a pretext. Uriah is probably wondering, why am I being brought back from the front? Uriah, we're told elsewhere, is one of David's 30, one of the key 30 soldiers, warriors, the leaders of David's army. And he's one of those. He's one of the 30, one of those. And so why am I being brought back from the front? He would ask. So David uses this as a pretext, saying, how are things going? I want a military report from you. How goes the battle? How are Joab and everybody else doing? How are they faring? How are they faring? In Hebrew, there's a special word that's being used a couple times, salem, which we usually translate it shalom. Salem is very similar, and it does mean peace. Remember, Jerusalem is actually city of peace, which is ironic even now. But Salem, and he's using it 3 different times. I believe he uses it 3 times. He's asking about peace, which the author almost seems to be using as foreshadowing and irony, because of what David is doing with this duplicity and this attempted cover-up, and everything that he's doing is definitely not peaceful, definitely not solemn, definitely not good for everyone kind of thing. But he's using that word multiple times in this passage with Uriah. And so he sends Uriah, after he gets his message, he says, go down to your house and wash your feet. Now, think, what? That's weird. It's a euphemism. It's a euphemism. Go down and have sex with your wife, is what he's telling him. Feet is a euphemism for male genitalia. And so this idea of washing your feet is a euphemism for sexual intercourse. So he's telling him, go down and sleep with your wife. That's exactly what he's telling him to do. But Uriah, we see Uriah as being a paragon of virtue. How can I do that? He is dedicated. He is dedicated to David and to Joab and to the army. Now, he's described as a Hittite, which would have been perhaps a different people, Canaanites, and yet his name Uriah is a Yahwistic name, meaning God is my. Ooh, what does that mean? Hang on. I know I've got it here somewhere. Yahweh is my light. Yahweh is my light is what Uriah means. So, and his actions and his words seem to be to live up to his name, so to speak. He doesn't want to do anything that would be wrong in God's eyes. And he doesn't want to do anything against David or against the army. So he's this like paragon of virtue. While at the same time, we see David, the king, acting in a very unkingly manner, an unseemly manner. He's already broken a couple commandments, and he's going to be breaking more. And everything, and he's just concerned about how he looks right now. All of this is to protect his personal reputation by the people, right? So, picking up from there. In the morning, David wrote a letter to Joab and sent it by the hand of Uriah. In the letter, he wrote, set Uriah in the forefront of the hardest fighting, and then draw back from him, so that he may be struck down and die. As Joab was besieging the city, he assigned Uriah to the place where he knew there were valiant warriors. The men of the city came out and fought with Joab, and some of the servants of David among the people fell. Uriah the Hittite was killed as well. Then Joab sent and told David all the news about the fighting, and he instructed the messenger, when you have finished telling the king all the news about the fighting, then if the king's anger rises, and if he says to you, why do you go so near? Why did you go so near the city to fight? Did you not know that they would shoot from the wall? Who killed Abimelech, son of Jerubbaal? Did not a woman throw an upper millstone on him from the wall, so that he died at Thebez? Why did you go so near the wall? Then you shall say, your servant Uriah the Hittite is dead too. So the messenger went and came and told David all that Joab had sent him to tell. The messenger said to David, the men gained an advantage over us and came out against us in the field, but we drove them back to the entrance of the gate. Then the archers shot at your servants from the wall. Some of the king's servants are dead, and your servant Uriah the Hittite is dead also. David said to the messenger, thus you shall say to Joab, do not let this matter trouble you, for the sword devours now one and now another. Press your attack on the city and overthrow it, and encourage him. When the wife of Uriah heard that her husband was dead, she made lamentation for him. When the mourning was over, David sent and brought her to his house, and she became his wife and bore him a son. But the thing that David had done displeased Yahweh. Pause. And end of chapter as well. All right. So the cover-up didn't work. Cover-up didn't work. Uriah was too good a guy. Lived up to his name too much. So how quickly it goes from a cover-up plan to a murder plot. And David is adding to his list of transgressions against the commandments, so that we've got at least 4 now. You shall not murder. You shall not murder. It's a pre-planned event. It's not exactly revenge, but to a degree, it's revenge. But he's out there to kill, and he does it using Joab. How Joab just seems to be there whenever David needs something underhanded done. It's very, very brief, almost exactly what happens, and Uriah is dead. The author is also specifying he's not the only one killed. Other servants of David have to be killed in order for it to happen, right? They're not able to just kill Uriah. Some others have to die as well. We might say collateral damage is taking place in order for this murder plot and continued cover-up to take place, all to protect David. David in the past has, we've seen, stepped back from using violence to grasp power or to hold on to power. But now he's beyond that. Now he is willing to use power. He's used power to appease his lust. And now he is using power and violence to keep the power that he has, to grasp onto his power rather than receiving it as a gift. We were told that everything he had, he was receiving as a gift from God. Now he is grasping at things instead. So we're seeing reversals in some of his character. And so it happens, and Uriah is dead, and Joab sends a messenger, fearing David's going to be upset at losing other soldiers, losing other servants. He throws in this thing, when that happens, if he gets mad, then tell him Uriah is also dead, right? To try to appease him. Now, in the Hebrew text, David does not object to it, does not get angry. There is a Greek version of the text in which David does have that, it does get angry to the initial message of the servant, of the messenger. And almost exactly as Joab predicted and laid it out. And then the servant does reply with that, oh, well, this is what happened. Oh, and by the way, Uriah, the Hittite, your servant is also dead. It goes through all of that, right? But we're not told that. Now, David tells the messenger and what to say to Joab. Both the NIV and the NRSV, do they get it right? Yeah, they get it right, but they're missing the point because of how they translate it. All right. And it's not that they're bad translations, but a slightly more accurate one to get the play on words, to get the connection. Here and in verse 27, they change it. They change it as well. But here in the NRSV and the NIV, the NIV says, "Don't let this upset you." The NRSV says, "Do not let this matter trouble you." In Hebrew, a more literal translation is, "Don't see this as evil." Okay, don't see this as evil. So don't let it displease you is accurate. Don't let it upset you is accurate. But don't see it as evil is more literal, and it's better, because in the ending of 26:7, the last words of this, both the NIV and the NRSV get it wrong when they say the thing that David had done displeased the Lord. It should say, but the thing that David had done was evil in the sight of the Lord, or in the eyes of the Lord. So he's telling Joab, don't let this be evil in your eyes, but it is evil in the eyes of Yahweh. So David could not control Bathsheba's body. David could not control Uriah's reaction and what he was willing to do, and try to get him to betray his friends and go down and sleep with his wife when they were out sleeping in tents or out in the middle of the field. And David also could not control how God saw what was taking place, what had happened. So those final words. So you see why those translations should have been a little bit more accurate with that in the eyes, and don't see this as evil when God saw it as evil. So there's that big connection there. So those ending words again perk up our ears. We know we haven't heard the last of it, right? If this was only a tale about a king and the king's actions, it's over, it's done, and you move on. But those last words tell us it's not. It's not just about king. It's about David as a person. It's about his character, and it's about God. So we will resume tomorrow with chapter 12 and see what happens from there. So, my friends, thank you for joining. I pray that you found something useful, that you found this beneficial use of your time, that God spoke to you in some way through what we've said or done this morning, said and read this morning. And as you go about your days, not just today, but every day, keep those eyes and ears, physical and spiritual, open to everything that God is doing in our living, loving, active God is doing in your life and in the lives of those around you. When you see it, when you hear it, say, thank you, God, and then tell somebody about it. Until we meet again, my friends, be blessed. Be blessed. Bye.